Hello, this is the Chad Factor. How's everybody doing today? This is a part two to the Nashville Winter Apocalypse. I am going to be doing a series of responses to a few videos. I'm going to first respond to what the NES CEO had to say. Probably won't do the entire video on that one because it's a little bit longer, but I'll probably the first 5 or 7 minutes. So let me share my screen with all of you and let's get into it. And let me do this and let's talk about it.
So customers and now even the Speaker of the House in Tennessee are calling for the resignation of NES management. Do you believe you and other NES executives should resign from your positions after this incident?
Accountability is important. And right now we are in active recovery, but we have plenty of time to do after action review and evaluate things that we could have done better.
So she says after action review. But the fact of the matter is, not blaming the linemen on this because the linemen are working their butts off. But why is Cheatham County doing better than you? Why is Memphis never have anybody lose power in Memphis and Shelby County? Why are small outer counties that have a quarter of the budget are doing better than you? So the action's already done. You failed. You're trash. You're a DEI hire, okay? And you're not doing anything right. I'm only 27 seconds in. I'm going to keep letting it play, but I'm just saying it's already bad. Your people should not be without power for days on end. But let's keep going.
Speaking of things you could have done better, I've been looking at an audit, and I want to just give you a chance to talk about that. The audit talks about did NES do enough when it comes to vegetation management, tree trimming prior to this storm? And it said unforeseen challenges prevented trimming sufficient miles in 2025. There was also a budget cut of $7 million. So did NES do enough things like tree trimming prior to this storm?
Tree trimming has always been an integral part of our power maintenance program. So we've had a pretty aggressive tree trimming program for years. We actually have not cut the budget. The budget has increased every year over the last 4 years. We're spending, I think, $21.6 million this year on tree trimming.
It was $13 million. You're saying you did not cut the budget?
We did not cut the budget for tree trimming. It has increased every year for the last 4 years.
And you think you did enough?
I know we have an active tree trimming program, and I personally have not evaluated the miles we've trimmed, but we have certainly been aggressively trimming trees.
If you were aggressively trimming trees, there wouldn't be trees all over Nashville. You can go down Weston Avenue, you can go down Broadway. There's still trees all over the place. There's still neighborhoods with fallen trees that some people had to pay thousands of dollars to pick up. Come on now.
My colleagues, your annual reports, though, you spent 33% less dollars on contract tree and grass from 2023 to 2025, from 21.28 million down to 14.29 million respectively. So, clarify, I don't really understand how, stemming from that line of question, that represents an increase, right? Unless clarify, is that a different number than what you're talking about? Or?
It is a different number that I'm talking about. The budgeted number was really the question, and we have not cut the budget in tree trimming. It has increased over every year over the last 4 years. Now, I am aware there was a change in vendor a few years ago that I believe probably resulted in more favorable pricing than was previously in place, but the budget itself has not been touched. It's increased.
If you're under budget, why not spend additional money to get more trees trimmed?
There may be a plan to trim more trees. I mean, I don't know that we weren't trimming additional trees in that case.
Last year you were $4 million. $18 million budget. You only spent $14 million on tree trimming. What could that $4 million have done? How many trees could you have trimmed with that didn't get trimmed?
Well, as I've stated, tree trimming is a critical part of what we do, and we do have a very robust vegetation management program.
Okay, we have some other
What's your
folks.
updated timeline?
This woman just said we have a robust program. If you had a robust program, there would not be people out of power for 14 weeks, something or entire week or days. It shouldn't have went days without power. Robust. Woo,
And I'm getting all power restored for the customers. We have, to provide information to our customers, we have the restoration estimates on the website. I believe the current date for that full completion is the 9th. We are working aggressively to try to beat that. We have even more crews joining tomorrow. As I stated earlier, we have 1,800 line workers on our system right now, the most that's ever been on the NES system, and we are adding more over 100 tomorrow.
I have a clarifying question. Are you saying that there's improvement now because you are hiring more linemen from the last press conference?
There are a variety of reasons why we could be seeing some improvement.
Right. Is one of those reasons that you have more linemen now from the last press conference?
Certainly adding line workers can help with
Have you
time.
done so?
We have added line workers throughout our restoration process as we've been able to safely integrate them into our system.
Right. So my question really then is, if you are now able to add more linemen, how are you able to do so? In the last press conference, it was stated that you were not able to do so because it would be dangerous and they have to be able to work and understand all of the equipment, all of the different grids and all of those things. What has changed that now you are able to hire more linemen, and why wasn't that the case earlier? That's my specific question.
I think what was stated at the last press conference was we were scaling our workforce. So we were gradually adding line workers as we were able to safely absorb them. So we are simply adding them as part of a plan where we're scaling up.
And are you continuing to scale up then to make the process?
So this is very hilarious that they said they couldn't add more linemen because they wanted to make sure they had all the stuff together and organized. But now they're hiring more linemen. They're only hiring more linemen because they know they screwed up. They're only hiring more linemen because they need to get this stuff done as fast as they can. They should have accepted the out-of-state help from linemen. So either they're being lazy or they just don't want to admit their mistake or pay a little bit more. Now, if they're coming from New York and all that, like the Northeast states, okay. But if they're coming from Georgia, Kentucky, Alabama, and you're not accepting their help, you're dumb.
Even faster? What are we looking at? What can we tell the customers that are cold? What can we tell the ones that have children that they don't have a place to shower before school? I'm just wanting to make sure that we're giving this information accurately of how quickly we're getting more linemen and when they're going to be able to live comfortably again, because it's been a very long process. I come from a cold state originally, and I just have to be honest. People are dying and people are really hurt at this time. So what can we tell them when it comes to the response of the linemen?
We have an incredible amount of concern for our customers who are out of power and want them restored as quickly as possible. So in recent days, we added 500 linemen yesterday. We have additional linemen we're adding tomorrow. So we are, as we can safely absorb them, we are flooding our system with them. And I think what we talked about the other day was that we have to have someone that is trained on hazardous energy control on our system that can lead the line workers around. We can't just dump them in our system and let them go. System control can't see them. They need clearances from system control. So someone has to be trained on that to lead them. So we had brought additional people in and done an expedited training on hazardous energy control so we could deploy more linemen.
Okay, right up here, here.
Some residents are saying they're having an easier time putting out signs and getting faster responses and using online responses. Why is that? What does the workflow like for your online inquiries?
So what that report is referring to is that there were text messages that were telling people their power were on, but then they came back and the power wasn't on. So a lot of false text messages from NES happened, and that there's some people from Green Hills that had signs out to have faster power. So in fact, let me show you what that reporter is talking about. Give me a second. So let me show you this. I want to see if I can find it. Yep, here it is. So here's the video that she's referring to. I'll show it to you.
Well, NES says the lights are back on for 99.9% of their customers. However, frustration lingers.
Several neighbors say they've had to rely on handmade signs in their front yard to try to get NES's attention. News 2's Alicia Wimberly is sharing more in tonight's neighborhood news out of East Nashville. Alicia.
Yeah, Bob and Haley, the sign started out as a way for neighbors to express their frustrations. But many people say when the online tool failed them, the signs got results. Mike Drudge lives in the northern part of Inglewood. He and his family waited more than a week for power to come back on. By the 10th day, he thought it couldn't hurt to make a sign. Around that time, Drudge created the sign. He noticed a few of his neighbors following his lead. He says less than 24 hours after, his power was restored. Drudge says a tragedy like Winter Storm Fern draws communities together, and the sign showed he wasn't fighting this battle alone.
I know that it's not simple as a snap of the finger to get power restored. I don't think anyone believes that. Most of us were just looking for communication. And this was one way for us to communicate in a small way that, hey, we still need power.
Earlier this week, I asked NES's CEO if she encouraged customers to put up roadside signs. She said,
so that's the things you're referring to. That was not just Inglewood. There are people in Green Hills, which is the richest area of Nashville, and those areas that put up signs to get people's attention as well. And they were without power for almost 2 weeks as well. Same thing of Belle Meade. That's old money, and they didn't have any power. So let's keep going.
Online, we are aware of all of our customers who are without power. And Brandon mentioned something a moment ago that I think is important. You have a lot of customers now that may be the only one in their neighborhood that's out, where they've had their weatherhead damaged and they've had to have an electrician come out. So they're somewhat isolated. We had been getting the large outages restored until we were able to get all of our high voltage lines restored. We were focused on those. We now are kind of splitting the workforce and retooling to have smaller crews to go address those one-off customers and that are kind of by themselves in their neighborhood waiting on power. And they have not been forgotten. We are deploying 2-man crews to go tackle those.
Is putting out signs something you encourage to get a response if a crew is out in the neighborhood? Do you feel like that is an easier way for people to get you guys to come?
Not necessarily. Our crews are deployed to where they are most needed, and when they're working in an area, they have a schedule of places they're going to be. I heard about the signs yesterday, and I suspect it's that some of them have some sympathy for people and are stopping to help. So I don't encourage it, but it can't hurt.
You need to encourage it. You need to.
The ERM report, yes.
Exactly. Well, in there, it was highlighted red about the vegetation removal and that sort of thing, but you said that you haven't pulled any money from that. What exactly were they trying to warn you about in that report?
Well, that report is intended to look at all risks of the organization and the impact of those risks.
So you're admitting that tree vegetation is a risk?
Tree vegetation is a risk for all utilities that have, for all utilities that have trees on their system.
But in the report it said unforeseen challenges prevented trimming sufficient miles in 2025.
Can you explain what those challenges are?
On our tree trimming.
If you want to see real media questioning authority, this is what you talk about. This is how you hold people accountable. I think a lot of news is fake news. I don't like national news media for the most part. I don't like some local news, but local news is some of the most honest media you can deal with because they're actually giving her legit questions and challenging her on the studies that they already said that it's in there. But the stuff in the red, them cutting funding, okay, the warnings that they were given. So I like this
program. I know that we are on track for this year with our tree trimming.
But you weren't in 2020. This is fiscal year last year. You weren't on track last year. You know why you were not on track?
I don't recall that statement, but we are on track with our tree trimming this year.
Not last year.
Alignment conversation. You understand you can't just take anyone off the street who says I'm aligning. You have to go through the vetting process. How many were rejected in that vetting process? And then also I wanted to ask about the mutual aid. I don't know if they're contracts or agreements that you have. Did you only accept help from linemen that had those mutual aid agreements with you?
So I'm already 10 minutes in. If you want to see the rest, you can go on here. But the bottom line is that let me share one more video. This is a man in Cheatham County that went through.
A new Tennessee law allows sorry
about that. So let me see if I can pull up the video from the Cheatham County person. Okay, videos. Here we go. All right, so this is a guy from Cheatham County, went through 2 storms. So I want to play his video real quick.
The recent ice storm is one we'll be talking about for decades to come, just like those of us who remember 1994. Raise your hand if you do. I think we all have something to say. We all do. Y'all were up north.
I was a year old.
Oh, hold on.
I was -1. I was a year old.
Wait, what?
Anyway, we have to get proceed.
For the last year. I was just thinking because they lived elsewhere.
No, they were not born. For the last few days, we've been asking you to let us know if you know someone who was instrumental as far as the response and aftermath of both storms.
So, News Channel 5's Austin Pollock is here with us this morning because you have found someone who held an important position during this storm as well as the one in 1994.
That's right. So we got an email from the Cheatham County mayor just the other day. He praised this county emergency management director's work and dedication during this storm. Here's the thing. He has a unique perspective when it comes to preparing for such a mess. If you look past the static, the memories of the ice storm in 1994 are still crystal clear.
We didn't have a light on in this county for 3 whole days.
3 whole days. And a man still remembering it 3 whole decades later is Edwin Hogan.
94 was worse because every yard looked like a war zone in this county.
Edwin was 27 and fresh into his role running Cheatham County's emergency operations.
Less than 4 months in, we got hit with the ice storm in 94.
32 years later, we had another memorable storm. It's been somewhat of a different beast, but one thing is still the same.
How long have you been in this role? 33 years.
He still keeps the proof of the past.
We had 2 house fires during that time. Of course, being presidentially declared, we have the receipts and the copies of things that we purchased in 94.
But if there's another thing that hasn't changed, it's that these tales prove Tennesseans are as tough as nails.
In 94, we had to hook bulldozers to line trucks to pull them through fields to get power back up. So some of those things have improved. This is pictures of the EMC back then.
Even as technology has evolved, Edwin knows the real power still comes from the people who spark light when the bulbs are out.
So many volunteers help, and there's just no way our agency or all the emergency services in our county could have gotten to everybody without the help of groups and citizens.
All right, so
and I can attest to this living in this county. of I'm walking the food line and a person comes to me and takes me back home because he doesn't want me to walk almost a mile with groceries in my hand. Okay. I'm going to stop the share right here. Okay. So my thing is, this man did 33. He went through 2 storms. They learned from the first one. They had 3 whole days of no power. They learned from it. They made the necessary adjustments of it. And 33 years later, most people, 90+% of people in Cheatham County had their power at the height of the storm. A county that has a quarter of the budget of Davidson. I'm gonna keep putting that in your head. Meanwhile, you have a county that's a major city and one of the most major cities in America, billions of dollars of tourism. Okay. Millions of dollars in property taxes. Okay. You don't have a good power grid. But you're a major city and your power grid sucks compared to somebody with a county that's a quarter of your budget. People lost thousands of dollars in food. People spent hundreds of dollars in hotel fees. Hundreds of dollars in your major city. But you want to go after the rural areas and say they're backwards and suck. This guy had experience and did a better job than you did. Why is that? It's because you're lazy and can't do it. It's because you're so woke, you don't want to cut the tree trims. What is it, man? And you can't use the excuse, well, this is the South. We're not used to weather. You had a storm 33 years ago. It snows almost every year in Nashville. There is no excuse here. When I went through the snowstorm in Atlanta in 2014 and 17, I walked to my house 5 miles. But you know what didn't happen? We still had power. And they were very unprepared for the weather in 2014. And I still had power in Atlanta. No one lost power in Atlanta that time. Why is it that y'all are losing power in a major city? Why did you cut the funding? Why is this happening? This is why I say that until this CEO gets fired, y'all Nashvillians need to boycott the power bill at this point. Y'all need to boycott or something. And don't pay a power bill for the month. The people who lost the power, not the people who had the power, because there are some people in Nashville that had their power. I will give it that. Half the population lost their power, but the other half didn't. Okay, y'all, the people that lost power, that y'all pay thousands of dollars for hotel, for generators and all that. You guys need to boycott at least for a month or two for this crap, because this is ridiculous. 2 weeks of no power? Come on now, man. Memphis still has power. Like I said, this NES woman needs to be fired. And there needs to be a refund, or they just don't pay their power bill. And also, there are some people in other apartments whose pipes burst, so they have to move out. So that's another thing not talking about. When it gets cold and the heat's off and the water's off, the pipes burst. So some people had to move out and leave as well. That's also not being talked about. This is a monumental failure, and the NES needs to be called out. Either the state needs to take over, or the CEO needs to be fired and have to have new leadership and increase funding to it. And you need to pay people, and you need to make sure they don't pay a power bill for at least a month or two. Because no power for almost 2 weeks is ridiculous. and you need to pay the people the hotel fees and the food they lost. If you don't do that, you need to not let them pay a power bill for a month or two. It's just simple as that, because this is pitiful. Anyway, this is Chad Factor out. This is part 2 to the winter apocalypse in Nashville. Hope y'all have a good one.